Welcome to Silent Queen's Reckoning. I'm so glad you could join us today. Now let's dive right into the story.
Chapter 1. Claire Whitmore found the key to her husband's second home inside a jar of peaches he had forbidden her to touch. For one long second, she simply stared at it. The key lay in a puddle of sticky syrup and broken glass on the pantry floor, small and silver, with a plastic tag shaped like a blue star. Beside it sat a black metal box wedged behind the old preserves, exactly where no one would look unless a jar slipped, shattered, and exposed the life Adrian Pierce had hidden in their own house. Claire had only wanted to clean the pantry. Adrian had left the night before for another business trip. Chicago, he said. 3 days, maybe 4. Investors, meetings, pressure. The same smooth words he used whenever he wanted the conversation to end. He had stood in the hallway in his charcoal coat, dark hair brushed back, suitcase beside his polished shoes. His face had been calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that came from practice. "Do not wait up this week," he had said, glancing at his phone. "The schedule is brutal." Claire had nodded like a good wife. He leaned in and kissed near her cheek, not on it. His cologne touched her skin more intimately than he did. Then the door closed behind him, and the townhouse fell into the familiar silence of a marriage that still had furniture, bills, and wedding photographs, but no warmth left in it. By morning, Claire had decided to clean. Not because she was happy, not because she was angry, because the house felt crowded with things nobody used and promises nobody kept. The pantry was the worst of it. Adrian called it his space, a narrow closet off the kitchen, lined with wooden shelves, packed with old tools, paint cans, extra light bulbs, and jars of fruit preserves his mother sent every winter. Whenever Claire tried to organize it, Adrian would smile without looking at her and say, "Leave it alone. I know where everything is." For years she had left it alone. That morning she did not. She pushed up the sleeves of her gray sweater, tied her pale blonde hair into a loose knot, and dragged a step stool from the laundry room. The pantry bulb flickered above her as she reached for the top shelf. 1 jar. 2 jars. 3. The fourth was heavier than the others. Its lid was rusted, its label half peeled away. Claire tugged it free, but something behind it shifted. Metal scraped wood. The jar slipped from her fingers. Glass exploded against the floor, syrup splashed across her jeans. Then the key slid out from behind the broken peaches and stopped against her shoe. Claire did not move. A key did not belong in the pantry. A key hidden behind 5-year-old preserves belonged to a door someone never wanted opened. Slowly, Claire stepped down from the stool. Her heart was beating, but not wildly. It was worse than panic. It was precision. Every sound sharpened. The hum of the refrigerator. The drip of syrup from the shelf. The tiny crackle of glass under her heel. She crouched and picked up the key. The blue star tag had handwriting on it. 3B Westbridge. Claire's fingers tightened around it. Westbridge was 20 minutes away. Adrian had no office there, no clients there. No reason to keep a labeled apartment key hidden inside their pantry. Unless Chicago was not always Chicago. Unless business trips were not always business trips. Unless her husband had built a life close enough to visit and far enough to hide. Claire looked at the black metal box, still trapped behind the jars. Dust coated the lid. A strip of tape sealed one side, old and dry. She pulled the box free and set it on the kitchen table. For a moment, she stood over it with both hands flat on the wood, staring down as if the box might speak first. Then she opened it. The first photograph showed Adrian with his arm around a red-haired woman in front of a Christmas tree. Not a casual arm, not a friendly arm. His hand rested on her waist with the lazy confidence of a man who came home to her often. The woman was pretty in a sharp, deliberate way. Porcelain skin, red hair curled over one shoulder, green eyes bright with triumph. She wore a cream sweater and a gold bracelet Claire had never seen before. Adrian was smiling. Not the tired, polite smile he gave Claire across dinner. Not the thin smile he used when she asked whether he would be home before midnight. This smile was open. Young. Alive. Claire turned to the next photograph. Adrian crouched beside a little boy in a blue raincoat. The boy had dark hair, dark eyes, and Adrian's stubborn mouth. He held a paper crown in both hands, grinning like the world had never disappointed him. On the back, written in purple marker, were 4 words. Daddy and Oliver, age 4. Claire's breath stopped. The room seemed to tilt, but her body stayed perfectly still. Beneath the photos was a lease agreement. Tenant name, Adrian Pierce. Apartment 3B, Westbridge. Lease term renewed annually for 5 years. 5 years. Claire sat down. 5 years ago, Adrian had started traveling more. 5 years ago, he began taking calls in the garage. 5 years ago, when Claire asked if they should finally try for a child, he touched her hand and told her they needed to be financially careful. Financially careful, while he was paying rent on another apartment. While he was buying toys for a son. While he was coming home to Claire and sleeping beside her with a face so peaceful, it now seemed monstrous. She kept reading. Receipts. Preschool payments. Children's shoes. A toy train set. A bracelet from a boutique Adrian once claimed was too expensive, when Claire admired a necklace in the window. At the bottom of the box was a folded sheet of paper. Claire opened it. It was not a love note. It was a plan. Sell sedan after power of attorney. Move clinic account access. Ask C about farm proceeds. Push divorce after trust distribution clears. Claire read it once. Then again. The air in the kitchen changed. Her husband did not only have a mistress. He did not only have a child. He had been studying her money, her car, her accounts, her inheritance. He had been waiting for the right moment to strip his legal wife clean and walk into another home with full hands. For years, Adrian had called Claire too sensitive whenever she questioned him. Too suspicious. Too quiet. Too cold. Now she looked at the photographs, the lease, the receipts, the key, and finally understood the truth. She had never been too sensitive. She had been standing in a burning house with a man who kept telling her the smoke was in her imagination. Claire lowered the paper to the table. Her wedding ring caught the weak pantry light. A plain platinum band. Adrian had chosen it because, according to him, large stones made women look insecure. She turned the ring once around her finger. Then she removed it. No tears came. That surprised her for half a second. Then it did not. Tears belonged to shock. Claire was past shock now. Something colder had opened inside her. Something clean and awake. She lined up every piece of evidence on the kitchen table. Photographs on the left. Lease in the center. Receipts by date. The handwritten plan at the top. Her movements were steady. Exact. Adrian had made one mistake. He thought the quiet woman in the modest townhouse was the whole of Claire Whitmore. He had no idea the name he had written so carelessly beside the word trust was the one name he should have feared most. Her phone buzzed. Adrian. Claire watched his name glow on the screen until the call ended. A message appeared. Landed. Long day ahead. Do not wait up tonight. Claire looked at the blue star key in her palm. Then she smiled. Not because anything was funny, because Adrian Pierce had just told his last easy lie. Chapter 2, Claire cleaned the glass before she did anything else. That was the first strange thing. She did not scream. She did not call Adrian. She did not throw the photographs across the room or collapse against the cabinets like women did in bad television dramas. She fetched the broom, swept the broken jar into a dustpan, wiped the floor, and rinsed the sticky brine from her hands. Her reflection in the kitchen window looked calm. Too calm. Only her eyes gave her away. They were light gray, almost silver in the morning sun, and they had gone flat in a way she had never seen before, as if something soft inside her had quietly stepped out of reach. She set the metal box on the kitchen table. Then she made coffee. Adrian loved to say Claire was emotional. He said it whenever she asked a question he did not want to answer. You are overthinking. You are making this into something. You are too sensitive, Claire. For 9 years she had swallowed those words. She had let them sit in her stomach until they felt like truth. Now she arranged the evidence in neat rows, photographs on the left, lease agreement in the center, receipts by date, the handwritten plan at the top. She worked like she did when reviewing clinic accounts, except this time every number was a bruise. The apartment rent had come from Adrian's personal account. The preschool payments had been split between 2 cards. But the household transfers, the ones Claire had assumed were for utilities, insurance, taxes, had been larger than necessary for at least 18 months. Adrian had been siphoning their joint money slowly enough that a trusting wife would not notice. A trusting wife. Claire looked at that phrase in her own mind and felt something cold move through her. She had not been foolish. She had been loyal. There was a difference, and Adrian had built his entire deception on pretending there was not. Her phone buzzed. Adrian. She watched his name glow on the screen. For a moment, memory tried to betray her. It offered her the Adrian from the beginning, the man who had shown up late to a charity auction with rain in his hair and a crooked smile. The man who said he admired that she could make rich donors feel guilty without ever raising her voice. The man who held her hand under the table during their first dinner with her trustees because he thought she was nervous. Back then, she had been charmed by the fact that he did not ask too many questions about her family money. Most men did. Some became greedy at once. Some pretended not to care, and then circled back later. Adrian had seemed different. He had married her in a small ceremony at City Hall. He had said he did not want a fortune. He wanted a life. Claire almost admired the patience of the lie. Her phone stopped buzzing. A message appeared. Landed. Long day ahead. Do not wait up tonight. Claire picked up the handwritten plan. Ask C about farm proceeds. 3 months earlier, she had sold a piece of rural land her grandmother had left in a family trust. Adrian believed it was an old farmhouse with sentimental value. He did not know the sale had been one tiny parcel from a trust that held medical buildings, storage facilities, commercial lots, and minority stakes in 3 development funds. That was because Claire had never told him. Not because she was hiding something shameful, but because her grandmother, Eleanor Whitmore, had taught her one rule before she died. Never tell people what you own until you understand what they want from you. Claire had broken that rule only once. She told Adrian enough to make him comfortable, not enough to make him hungry. Apparently, even that had been too much. At noon, Claire took off her wedding ring and set it beside the box. The ring was plain platinum. Adrian had chosen it because he said large stones made women look insecure. Claire had smiled at the time. She had thought he meant he loved her simplicity. Now she understood. He had always preferred her smaller. Chapter 3 Westbridge was 20 minutes away. Close enough to be insulting. Claire drove herself there in the navy sedan Adrian had planned to sell without her permission. The leather steering wheel was worn smooth under her palms. He had complained about the car for years. Too old. Too modest. Bad for appearances. He drove it anyway whenever his own leased SUV was at the office. He liked using things he mocked. The apartment building stood behind a row of maple trees, red brick with black balconies and a children's playground in the courtyard. A small bicycle lay on its side near the entrance. Someone had tied a yellow ribbon around the handlebars. Claire parked across the street and sat there for almost a minute. Her chest felt tight, but her hands were steady. She had imagined many versions of this moment during the drive. In one, the woman knew nothing. In another, the woman laughed. In another, Claire lost control and became exactly the kind of hysterical wife Adrian could dismiss. She refused to give him that gift. She walked into the building, climbed to the 3rd floor, and stopped before apartment 3, B. A wreath hung on the door. White flowers. Gold ribbon. A small wooden sign in the center read, "Our happy place." Claire rang the bell. Footsteps approached. Light, quick, confident. The door opened. The woman from the photograph stood there in a cream sweater and black leggings, red hair pinned with a pearl clip. Up close, Vanessa Cole was prettier than the picture, but also harder. Her mouth was soft. Her eyes were not. She looked Claire up and down. Not with confusion. With recognition. Then her lips curved. So, Vanessa said. He finally got careless. Claire felt the last fragile possibility die. You know who I am, Claire said. Vanessa leaned against the doorframe. She smelled like vanilla perfume and expensive hair oil. Of course I know who you are. You are Claire. Her eyes dipped to Claire's left hand, where the ring was gone. The wife who lives like a roommate and refuses to let go. Claire's face did not move. Inside the apartment, a child laughed at something on television. Vanessa's expression sharpened, as if she had noticed exactly where Claire's gaze went. Oliver is in the living room, she said. Do not worry, he thinks his father is at work. His father. The words struck cleanly, but Claire did not flinch. Did Adrian tell you I refused to let go? Claire asked. Vanessa gave a small shrug. He did not need to. Men do not stay away from happy marriages for 5 years. Claire studied her. Vanessa was not shaking. She was not ashamed. She was not a frightened single mother who had believed a beautiful lie until the legal wife appeared. She was a woman who had waited for this confrontation and rehearsed her best angles. May I come in? Claire asked. Vanessa hesitated. Then curiosity won. She stepped aside. The apartment was tastefully arranged. Soft beige couch. Framed prints, a small dining table with fresh flowers. Toys were tucked into baskets, not scattered. On the console table sat a silver photo frame showing Adrian, Vanessa, and Oliver at a beach. Claire noticed the bracelet first. Gold. Delicate. A row of tiny emeralds. The bracelet from the receipt. Vanessa noticed her noticing. He has good taste when he wants to, she said. Claire turned to her. When did you find out he was still married? Vanessa's smile thinned. That is a boring question. Then answer it quickly. For a second, anger flashed across Vanessa's face. It was gone almost at once, replaced by a little laugh. Fine. I knew he was married when I met him. He said you were separated in every way that mattered. Separate bedrooms, separate lives, separate future. He said the legal part was complicated because of money. Because of money. There it was. Claire glanced toward the hallway, where cartoons flickered blue against the wall. And you believed him? At first. Vanessa folded her arms. Then I believed what mattered. He came here. He paid rent. He held our son. He said he would leave when the timing was right. Claire looked at the apartment again. The flowers, the bracelet, the framed beach photo, the carefully displayed life. You knew enough, Claire said. Vanessa's chin lifted. I knew I was not the one he ignored every night. The sentence landed exactly where Vanessa intended it to land. Claire felt it. She allowed herself to feel it. Then she put it aside. Vanessa mistook silence for weakness. Her voice softened into something crueler. You want to know the truth? He pitied you. He said you were good with bills and schedules, but being with you felt like living with a bank statement. Claire almost smiled. A bank statement had more power than Vanessa understood. Did he also tell you to help him sell my car? Claire asked. Vanessa's eyes changed. Only slightly. But enough. Claire reached into her handbag and took out a photocopy of the handwritten plan. She placed it on the dining table. Vanessa stared at it. For the first time, her confidence slipped. I do not know what that is. Yes, you do. No, Vanessa said too quickly. That is Adrian's business. Then why is your handwriting on the bottom? Vanessa froze. Claire tapped the last line, the one beneath Adrian's list. After trust clears, push harder. She has no idea what she is worth. Vanessa's face lost color. The television continued murmuring from the next room. A bright, childish song filled the apartment, absurdly cheerful. Claire looked at Vanessa and saw the whole ugly shape of it. Adrian had lied. Vanessa had believed some of it. Then she had stopped believing and started calculating. She was not the first victim. She was the second architect. Chapter 4. Vanessa recovered quickly. That was almost impressive. She snatched the paper from the table and thrust it back at Claire, her nails painted dark red, her hand trembling just enough to betray her. "You came here to scare me," she said. "No. I came here to learn what kind of person you are." Vanessa laughed, but it sounded scraped thin. "And what are you going to do with that? Cry to a divorce lawyer? Adrian already told me your assets are tied up. He said your family keeps you on an allowance." Claire tilted her head. There it was again. The story Adrian had created to make greed feel manageable. An allowance. That was what he called distributions from a trust his company could not afford to offend. "Did he tell you what trust?" Claire asked. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. "Some old family thing." "What name?" Vanessa hesitated. Claire watched her work through the danger too late. "I do not remember." "Yes, you do." Vanessa pressed her lips together. From the living room, the little boy called, "Mom, can I have juice?" Vanessa turned her head. "In a minute, sweetheart." Her voice was tender, automatic. For 1 second, the performance dropped and motherhood appeared beneath it, real and human and exhausted. Claire did not hate the child. That mattered. The child had not built this. Vanessa faced her again, harder now, as if tenderness embarrassed her. "Listen to me," Vanessa said. "Adrian loves Oliver. Whatever you think of me, do not punish my son because your marriage failed." Claire's gaze sharpened. "My marriage did not fail. Your boyfriend lied, stole marital funds, tried to forge a power of attorney, and planned to touch protected trust property he had no legal claim to. Those are different things." Vanessa's mouth opened. Closed. Claire stepped toward the table and picked up the paper. "I am going to ask you one question. If you answer honestly, my lawyers may treat you as a cooperating witness instead of a co-conspirator." Vanessa swallowed. There it was. The first real fear. "What lawyers?" Claire smiled then. A small, quiet smile that made Vanessa take half a step back. The ones Adrian should have asked about before he wrote down the word trust. For 5 years, Adrian had slept in 2 beds. For 5 years, he had learned when to lie softly and when to lie fast. He knew which receipts to hide and which names to change. He knew how to make Claire feel unreasonable for asking why his trips never came with hotel points or boarding passes. But Adrian had made one fatal mistake. He thought Claire's silence meant ignorance. He had never understood that she was raised by Eleanor Whitmore, a woman who had turned one failing nursing home into a regional medical property empire by letting arrogant men underestimate her across conference tables. Claire had inherited more than money. She had inherited patience. "Where are the original documents?" Claire asked. Vanessa looked away. "Vanessa. In the bedroom closet," she whispered. "Top shelf, blue binder." Claire felt no triumph. Not yet. Get it. Vanessa's jaw tightened. "You cannot order me around in my own home." "No," Claire said. "But a subpoena can." Vanessa stared at her. Then she walked down the hall. While she was gone, Oliver appeared in the living room doorway. He was small, dark-haired, wearing dinosaur pajamas though it was nearly noon. He held a plastic cup with both hands. He looked at Claire with Adrian's eyes. "Are you my dad's friend?" he asked. Claire's throat tightened. She crouched, lowering herself to his height. "No," she said gently. "I know your dad." Oliver considered this. "He is coming Friday." Claire looked at his little face and felt rage sharpen into something cleaner. Adrian had not only betrayed women, he had built a child's calendar out of lies. "I hope you have a good day, Oliver," Claire said. He nodded solemnly and disappeared back into the living room. Vanessa returned with the binder clutched against her chest. Her face was pale now, the pearl clip in her red hair slightly crooked. She placed the binder on the table. Claire opened it. Bank transfers, email printouts, notes, a copy of Claire's signature cut from an old tax document, a draft power of attorney form, a printout from Adrian's office showing an upcoming bid presentation for a Whitmore Trust redevelopment project. Claire stopped at that page. So that was the final shape. Adrian wanted her inheritance, her car, her quiet and her trust's business. He wanted to strip his wife in private and impress his mistress in public with opportunities that came from the wife he mocked. Claire closed the binder. Vanessa whispered, "He said you did not control any of it." Claire looked at her. For the first time that morning, Vanessa seemed very young. Not innocent. Just frightened. "He was wrong," Claire said. Chapter 5. Adrian came home Thursday night carrying flowers. That alone would have been funny if it had not been so insulting. Claire watched him from the kitchen as he opened the door and stepped inside with a bouquet of white lilies wrapped in brown paper. He wore his navy suit, the expensive one he said he needed for investor meetings. His jaw was freshly shaved. His smile was practiced. He had always been handsome in a polished, marketable way. Dark hair, strong nose, clean shirts, bright watch. The kind of man strangers trusted because he looked like he belonged in rooms with glass walls and expensive coffee. Now Claire noticed the small signs beneath the polish. The tightness around his mouth. The sweat at his temple despite the cold air outside. The quick scan of the hallway, the pantry, the table. He knew something. Maybe Vanessa had warned him. Maybe she had called him the moment Claire left. Maybe Adrian had simply sensed the atmosphere in the house had changed. Men like him survived by reading temperature. "Hey," he said, lifting the flowers. "Peace offering. I know I have been away too much." Claire sat at the kitchen table. In front of her were 3 items. The metal box. The blue binder, a business card from Graham Vale, senior counsel for Whitmore Holdings. Adrian saw the box first. All the color drained from his face. The flowers lowered in his hand. "Claire." She said nothing. His gaze moved to the binder. His throat worked. "Where did you get that? Which answer would make you feel better?" Adrian's eyes snapped to hers. For a moment, anger broke through before he forced it down. "Listen," he said softly. "Whatever Vanessa told you, she is unstable. She has always wanted more than I could give her. She twists things." Claire watched him choose the first mask. Concerned husband, reasonable man, victim of a difficult woman. "How long did you rehearse that?" Claire asked. His face tightened. "Claire, please, this is complicated. It is actually very simple." "No," he said, stepping closer. "It is not. I made mistakes, terrible mistakes, but I never stopped caring about you." Claire looked at the lilies. "Did you buy those with our joint account?" He flinched. "There. A small thing, but satisfying." "Sit down, Adrian." He blinked. The command was quiet. That made it worse. He sat. Claire opened the metal box and placed the photographs on the table one by one. Vanessa at Christmas, Oliver at the beach. Adrian holding the boy on his shoulders, laughing with his whole face. Adrian stared at the photos and swallowed. Then Claire laid out the lease. The preschool receipts. The bracelet receipt. "I can explain." She opened the blue binder. The room changed. Adrian stopped breathing normally. Claire placed the bank transfers in front of him. 18 months of money taken from the joint account. He leaned forward. Those were household reimbursements. For whose household? His mouth closed. She placed the email chain beside it. "Trying to sell my car without my signature." "I was asking a hypothetical question." "To a title broker?" His hand curled into a fist on the table. Claire placed the copied signature and draft power of attorney on top. Adrian stared at it. The mask cracked. "You went to her apartment." "Yes." "You had no right." Claire almost laughed. It came out as a breath. "You hid a second family in a rented apartment for 5 years, forged my signature, and planned to steal from a protected trust. But my visit was the part that offended you?" His face hardened. The soft husband vanished. The man beneath it was smaller and uglier. "You always do this," he snapped. "You sit there with that cold face, pretending you are above everyone." Claire felt the old reflex stir, the urge to soften. To explain. To make herself less threatening so he would calm down. She let the urge die. Adrian leaned closer. "Do you know what living with you is like? Everything measured. Everything quiet. You made this house feel like a museum. Vanessa made me feel alive. Claire looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, "And my money made you feel ambitious." His jaw twitched. "I never wanted your money." "No, you wanted access to it." He pushed back from the table so hard the chair scraped the floor. "You think you are untouchable because your grandmother left you some dusty buildings?" Claire picked up Graham Vale's business card and slid it across the table. Adrian looked down. Whitmore Holdings. His eyes froze on the name. For the first time in 9 years, Claire watched him understand something in real time. His company's largest pending redevelopment bid was for Whitmore Holdings. His promotion depended on Whitmore Holdings. The investors he had been trying to impress were waiting for Whitmore Holdings. And Claire was not a woman on an allowance. She was the controlling beneficiary. Adrian's lips parted. Claire watched the blood leave his face a second time. Slower now. "What is this?" he whispered. "The part you should have researched before you tried to steal from me." Chapter 6. Adrian did not apologize. That told Claire everything. A decent man might have broken. A guilty man might have begged. Adrian did neither at first. He stared at the card as if it had personally betrayed him. Then he looked up, and fear made him honest. "Does the board know?" Claire folded her hands on the table. "Which board?" His voice dropped. "Claire. Your board? My board? The development committee? The trust auditors? Be specific." His mouth tightened. The pleasure of that moment was not loud. It was quiet, precise, almost clean. For years, Adrian had used vague phrases to control conversations. Business, timing, pressure, complications. Now language belonged to her. He rubbed both hands over his face. When he lowered them, his expression had changed again. Panic had put on tenderness. "Claire," he said, "I made a horrible mistake. More than one. I know that, but if this gets out, it destroys me. You destroyed yourself. I can fix this. No. I will end it with Vanessa." Claire looked at him. He said it too quickly, too easily, like canceling a subscription. "She has your child." Pain flashed across his face then, real or close enough to real that it almost mattered. "I know." "No," Claire said. "You know how to use him. That is different." Adrian stood and paced to the sink, then back. His movements were sharp, restless. He looked like a man searching for an exit in a room he had built himself. "Tell me what you want," he said. "A divorce. Fine. Quietly." "No." His head jerked up. Claire opened a folder beside the binder. "Tomorrow morning, my lawyer files for divorce, asset protection, and recovery of diverted marital funds. The forged power of attorney draft goes to counsel. The attempted title transfer goes to the state motor vehicle fraud unit. Your company receives notice that you are personally conflicted on any matter involving Whitmore Holdings." Adrian gripped the back of the chair. "You cannot do that." "I already did." His eyes went wild for 1 second. "You called them?" "Graham did." "You vindictive little—" He stopped himself too late. Claire rose. She was not tall enough to tower over him. She did not need to. Finish that sentence. Adrian's mouth opened. Nothing came out. For the first time, he looked at her not as a wife to manage, but as a person with power he had failed to measure. That was the real reversal. Not the money. Not the lawyers. Not even the trust. It was the moment the man who had spent years reducing her to a quiet woman in a kitchen realized the kitchen had never been the edge of her world. It had only been where she let him stand. "Pack a bag," Claire said. "This is my home too." "No. This townhouse was purchased by the Whitmore Trust before our marriage. You signed a residence acknowledgement at closing. Graham has the original. You were very relaxed that day. You said paperwork was boring." Adrian's face twisted. "You set me up." Claire's laugh was soft and humorless. "You signed a document you did not read because you assumed the woman beside you would never use it. That is not a setup. That is character." He stared at her. Then his eyes moved toward the stairs, the study, the pantry, as if he were mentally counting what he could take. Claire saw it and opened the final envelope. Your office laptop is already locked. The trust audit team has preserved the relevant emails. Your company's compliance officer has been notified not to allow deletion of records connected to the Westbridge lease, the vehicle inquiry, or the Whitmore bid. Adrian went still. You went after my job. No. I protected my company from a man who forged his wife's signature. For a moment, he looked like he might shout. Then he looked like he might cry. Then he looked empty. That was the truest face of all. He had spent 5 years building 2 lives, and both had depended on the same assumption. Claire would never look behind the jar. Chapter 7. The charity gala was held 2 weeks later at the Belhaven Hotel, under chandeliers that made everyone's diamonds look larger than they were. Claire had not planned to attend. Then Graham called. Adrian will be there, he said. Claire stood in her bedroom, looking at the black dress hanging on the wardrobe door. Why? Pierce Development is still sending a delegation. He is not presenting, but he is trying to show the room he has not been removed from serious circles. Vanessa? A pause. She is on the guest list as his +1. Claire looked at herself in the mirror. For 9 years, she had attended events beside Adrian in simple dresses and low heels, letting him introduce her as his wife, Claire, with no further detail. When people asked what she did, she said she helped with books at a clinic. Adrian would smile, amused by her modesty. He liked rooms where people did not know who she was. He was about to lose one. Send the car at 7, Claire said. At 7, she stepped out of the townhouse wearing a black silk dress with long sleeves, emerald earrings that had belonged to Eleanor Whitmore, and her hair swept into a smooth, low twist. She wore no wedding ring. She carried no visible anger. The driver opened the door of a dark town car. For the first time in years, Claire did not choose modesty for Adrian's comfort. The Belhaven ballroom glittered with donors, executives, lawyers, and city officials. Waiters moved through the crowd with champagne. A jazz trio played near the windows. The air smelled of flowers, perfume, and money pretending to be generosity. Adrian saw her from across the room. His face changed so sharply that Vanessa noticed. Claire watched Vanessa turn. The mistress wore a red satin dress, her hair loose over one shoulder, emerald bracelet flashing on her wrist. Claire recognized it from the receipt. Seeing it in person did not hurt as much as she expected. It looked smaller now. Vanessa whispered something to Adrian. He caught her wrist, perhaps to stop her, but she pulled free and crossed the room with a smile bright enough to cut. Claire, Vanessa said, loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. How brave of you to come. Several heads turned. Adrian followed, pale and furious. Claire lifted her champagne glass but did not drink. Vanessa. The redhead's eyes swept over her dress, her earrings, her calm face. Something insecure flickered beneath the polish. I suppose Adrian did not tell you we would be here. He rarely told me the truth. A few people nearby went quiet. Vanessa's smile hardened. Well, truth can be painful. Some marriages are over long before anyone signs papers. Claire looked at her for a moment. She could have answered sharply. She could have humiliated Vanessa at once. The old Claire might have chosen dignity and walked away. But this was not about jealousy. This was about theft wearing perfume. You are right, Claire said. Some things are over before the paperwork. Vanessa looked pleased, mistaking the sentence for surrender. Then the event chair stepped onto the small stage and tapped the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight in support of the Belhaven Children's Medical Fund. We are also honored to recognize the Whitmore Trust for its renewed commitment to community health development. Adrian closed his eyes for half a second. Vanessa did not understand yet. The chair continued. Please welcome the Trust's controlling beneficiary and chair of the redevelopment committee, Ms. Claire Whitmore. The room turned. All at once, Claire set her untouched champagne on a passing tray. Vanessa's smile died. Adrian looked as if someone had cut the floor from beneath him. Claire walked to the stage. Every step was quiet. Every eye followed. At the microphone, she looked over the ballroom. She saw Graham near the front, expression neutral. She saw Adrian beside Vanessa. his hand hanging uselessly at his side. She saw Vanessa's red mouth slightly open. Claire spoke clearly. My grandmother believed that wealth is not proven by what we keep. It is proven by what we refuse to let corrupt. The room stilled. She also taught me that institutions are only as strong as the people trusted to serve them. In the coming months, Whitmore Holdings will be reviewing all development partnerships with renewed attention to ethics, transparency, and fiduciary duty. Adrian's face tightened. Several executives from his company exchanged glances. Claire did not look at him when she delivered the final line. We will not build clinics, homes, or schools with men who treat trust as something to exploit behind closed doors. The applause began politely, then grew. Vanessa stepped back from Adrian as if distance could save her from being associated with him. Claire left the stage to a wave of handshakes. People who had barely glanced at her before now leaned in with careful respect. Mr. Caldwell from Pierce Development approached, his face stiff. Miss Whitmore, he said, I hope we can discuss any concerns before final decisions are made. Claire smiled. Speak with Mr. Vale. Across the room, Adrian was already being abandoned. It happened quietly. That made it better. One investor checked his phone and drifted away. A city official gave Adrian a short nod and turned his back. Vanessa whispered something sharp, but Adrian did not answer. He was staring at Claire like a man watching a locked vault walk across the room in human form. Claire did not need to destroy him loudly. She only needed to stop protecting him silently. Chapter 8. The divorce took 5 months. Adrian tried every tactic available to a desperate man with a cheap lawyer and expensive habits. First, he claimed Claire had manipulated him into signing the residence acknowledgement. Graham produced the video recording from the closing office, where Adrian joked that if Claire wanted him to sign away imaginary rights to an old townhouse, he would do it for a sandwich. Then Adrian claimed the joint transfers were family support for his son and should not be treated as misconduct. The judge asked whether Claire had consented to supporting a household she did not know existed. Adrian had no answer. Then he tried to blame Vanessa. Vanessa, who had arrived at court in a navy dress and a wounded expression, turned on him before lunch. She handed over messages. Texts where Adrian promised the farmhouse proceeds would be enough for their down payment. Emails where he asked her to practice Claire's signature from old holiday cards. Voice notes where he laughed and said, Claire never checks anything outside a spreadsheet. Claire sat still through all of it. Her lawyer did the speaking. Graham did the watching. Adrian did the unraveling. By the third hearing, the judge's patience was gone. The townhouse remained Claire's. The car remained Claire's. The joint funds Adrian had diverted were ordered reimbursed. The attempted forgery triggered a separate investigation. Pierce Development terminated Adrian for cause after the compliance review found he had used company email and staff contacts while pursuing personal fraud. The Whitmore redevelopment contract went to another firm. Adrian's name disappeared from websites within 48 hours. Vanessa fared no better. Her lawyer tried to paint her as an innocent single mother deceived by a powerful married man. Graham placed her handwritten note on the table. After trust clears, push harder. The courtroom went silent. Vanessa's face crumpled, not with remorse, but with the shock of a person discovering that private greed had a public price. She was ordered to return identifiable funds she had received from the joint account. The bracelet was included in the settlement recovery. Claire did not want it. She donated it to the Belhaven auction. It sold for more than Adrian had paid. That detail made Graham smile for the first time in months. Adrian called Claire exactly once after the decree was signed. She was in her office at Whitmore Holdings, standing by the window, watching rain beat against the glass. Her assistant knocked, entered, and mouthed, "It is him." Claire considered refusing. Then she took the call. For 3 seconds, neither of them spoke. Adrian's voice sounded smaller through the line. "Claire, yes. I lost everything." She looked at the city below, the wet roofs, the traffic, the gray ribbon of the river cutting through downtown. "No," she said. "You lost what was never yours." He inhaled sharply. "I loved you once. Claire closed her eyes. Maybe he had. Maybe, in some shallow chamber of his heart, he had loved the version of her that cooked dinner, signed forms, smiled gently, and made his life easier. But love without respect was only appetite with better manners. Goodbye, Adrian. She ended the call. Then she blocked the number. Chapter 9. Adrian went to Vanessa that same evening. Claire learned this later from Graham, who learned it from Vanessa's lawyer, who mentioned it during final repayment negotiations with the weary disgust of a woman tired of cleaning up other people's disasters. Adrian arrived at Westbridge with 2 suitcases and a garment bag. It was raining hard. His hair was plastered to his forehead. His expensive coat had no umbrella to protect it. He rang the bell at 3B. Vanessa opened the door with the chain still on. For 5 years she had wanted him to arrive with luggage. For 5 years she had imagined the scene. Adrian choosing her. Adrian free. Adrian ready to build the life he promised. Now the man stood in the hallway, unemployed, under investigation, stripped of the project, stripped of the wife, stripped of the money he had pretended was nearly his. Vanessa looked at the suitcases, then at his face. No, she said. Vanessa, please. You said she had nothing. Adrian stared at her. That is what matters to you? Her laugh was sharp and ugly. Do not act pure now. You came to me because you thought you could take from her and start over here. For Oliver, he said. The chain remained on the door. At the sound of his name, the little boy appeared behind Vanessa, rubbing one eye with a small fist. Daddy? Adrian's face broke. Vanessa looked back at her son, and for one moment, even she seemed to understand the size of what they had done. Not legally, not financially, humanly. Then she stepped into the hallway, pulling the door mostly shut behind her. You can arrange visitation through court, she said. Vanessa, no, you do not get to land here because you crashed there. She closed the door. The chain clicked. Adrian stood in the hallway with his luggage until the building manager asked him to leave. He moved into a weekly motel near the interstate, the kind with buzzing lights, thin towels, and a vending machine that ate dollar bills. Claire did not visit. She did not ask for updates. She did not search his name. The first time she felt tempted, she went to the pantry instead. The pantry had remained untouched since the morning the jar broke. Graham had offered to send someone to clean it. Her sister, Natalie, had offered to come over with wine, trash bags, and fury. Claire had said no. Some rooms had to be reclaimed by the person who lost them. So on a Saturday morning in late spring, she opened the pantry door. The bulb flickered once. Claire looked up. No, she said softly. She fetched a new bulb from the utility drawer, climbed the step stool, and replaced it. Bright white light filled the small space. For the first time, she saw everything clearly. Old jars, Adrian's tools, dusty boxes, a cracked tennis racket he had once promised to restring, a stack of trade magazines with his name on the labels, the empty space where the black metal box had been hidden. Claire began at the top shelf. She threw away the old jars. She packed Adrian's tools into a donation crate. She wiped every shelf until the cloth came away clean. The work was simple, physical, and deeply satisfying. By noon, the pantry belonged to no one. By 2, it belonged to her. She placed new glass jars on the bottom shelf. Peach preserves from Eleanor's old recipe. Not from the sold parcel, but from the orchard still held by the trust. The orchard Adrian had never bothered to ask about. On the middle shelf, she placed files for the Bellhaven Clinic project. On the top shelf, she placed a framed photograph of Eleanor Whitmore standing in a hard hat at a construction site, smiling like a woman who had learned long ago that men underestimated her at their own expense. Claire stepped back. The pantry was small. Clean. Bright. Nothing hidden. Nothing rotting in the dark. Her phone buzzed with a message from Natalie. Dinner tonight? No men, no lies, expensive dessert. Claire smiled. For years, she had thought peace would feel like getting back what she lost. It did not. Peace felt like hearing her own name without someone else's shadow attached to it. It felt like a house where every key belonged to her. It felt like money that no longer had to disguise itself as modesty to protect a man's pride. It felt like standing in a pantry, looking at a row of jars, and understanding that the broken one had not ruined her life. It had opened it. Chapter 10. 3 months later, Claire stood on a construction site wearing a white hard hat and mud on the heel of one boot. The old Bellhaven warehouse stretched behind her, its brick walls cleaned, its broken windows removed, its future rewritten into blueprints and steel beams. In a year it would become a pediatric therapy center with a free legal aid office on the second floor for women navigating financial abuse and divorce. Graham stood beside her, holding a tablet. "The name plaque needs final approval," he said. Claire looked at the rendering. Eleanor Whitmore Family Center. For a long moment she said nothing. The wind lifted a strand of blonde hair from her cheek. She tucked it behind her ear, then looked toward the street where a young mother pushed a stroller past the chain-link fence. "Add one line under it," Claire said. Graham waited. Claire's voice was steady. "For those who were told they had nothing." Graham's expression softened. "I think Eleanor would like that." Claire looked back at the building. She thought of the woman she had been on that Monday morning, kneeling in broken glass, staring at a key to another life. She thought of how close she had come to mistaking betrayal for ordinary disappointment. She thought of every quiet woman who had been called too sensitive by someone hiding a knife behind his back. Then she thought of the jar. A cheap jar. Old peaches. Dust. Glass on the floor. No thunder. No warning. Just the moment truth fell out of hiding. Claire had once believed strength meant never breaking. Now she knew better. Sometimes strength was breaking cleanly enough to see what had been trapped inside. Sometimes it was sweeping the glass, making coffee, calling the lawyer, and refusing to become small just because someone else needed her that way. She signed the approval on Graham's tablet. The sun came through the exposed beams, bright and almost white. Claire handed the tablet back. "Let's build it," she said. And this time, everything built in her name would stand in the open. If you enjoy powerful stories about truth, courage, and quiet strength, subscribe for more emotional storytelling made for immersive listening.